Good morning, everybody. This is CAD 212 on Wednesday, April 13th. This is class 18. Today in class, we're going to do some fun stuff today. We're going to figure out how to add lighting to our building. So when we start doing our interior renderings, those things get lit up and look really cool. We're also going to talk about how to create a standing seam metal roof. And for those of you who don't want this incorporated into your actual model, your final model, you can do this in that same model with your dormers that we created separately. So you do have options there. Technically, this week will be the last week we're working in design development, which means that by Monday, you should be at a point where 90% of your creative work is finished. You can still be working in that as we move into CDs, which is construction documents. But the next 2 weeks, we're going to be focusing a lot on how we pull this together with finalizing it, putting everything on sheets, and creating some documentation for our project. Some important dates to keep in mind are May 2nd. At noon, your final project will be due. And then on May 4th, your final exam will take place from 9 a.m. to 12. So you have 3 hours to do that. On May 2nd, we'll also review for your final. And a couple of, like the week before that, I'll give you some information in regards to what to expect on the final as well. So you'll have lots of time to prep for it. So that being said, let's go ahead and jump into class today. All right, I've got this model open. Someone submitted this one and it's looking really good. So let's just kind of take a quick little tour around it and see what we're looking at. I noticed this earlier, but for some reason, this wall is a different color than this wall. Not sure why that's showing up that way. That may be something that whoever project this is, they can go back and revisit this. Let's take a look at a couple other things. So curtain wall is looking really nice. A couple of things that caught my eye just right away doing this. If you look at this third floor, go back, and this floor looks like it was actually cut at an angle. You would actually want to do this not like if you always want to do a straight on view when you're editing floors or walls or anything, because if you are at an angle, it will give you something that kind of looks like this, where that floor is not completely finished. It's still intersecting the stairway, especially the stair railing. If we take a look over here, take that side view, you can see that yeah, the stairs aren't quite reaching the floor. So definitely have a gap there. Easy to fix. Go back from a straight top down view and re-edit that floor. Let's take a look at the side view here. The walls are stacking up nicely here. Once again here, issues with the floor. Connecting to the stairs, just a matter of re-editing this flooring. And we have a railway right in front of the staircase. So probably not great placement for this. Let's just go back and delete that. And that'll correct that situation. A couple other things. I like how if we jump to level 1, that there was a lot of egress added to this building. This was really nice, much better traffic flow than it was, so great edit there. One thing that is a little off is this door here. Nice idea to try to incorporate that into a curtain wall, but as we saw from this 3D view, where did it go? If we flip it around this way, you'll see that it's intersecting the stairways here as well. So I'd get rid of that. So a few little edits and corrections on here, but this is looking really good. Let's take a look at a couple of the other floors. Interiors, add a few more interiors for when you do your walkthrough because it just looks interesting. Okay, that looks good. Just from the few things that I caught right there. Let's jump into lighting today. Now, lighting's pretty easy. It's pretty fun too. So we're actually going to start in the ceiling plan level 1 view. Let's light up level 1. You don't necessarily have to put ceilings on every floor. Not ceilings on every floor, excuse me, lighting on every floor, just because I want to see the lighting in your level 1 when you do the interior renderings and when you do your walkthroughs. So let's go ahead and see how we do that. So we're going to go to Architecture tab, Build Panel, and our Components tool. We're going to go to Load Family. And we're going to go down to Lighting. And we're going to use architectural lighting. If you do end up taking the MEP class, which is mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, we would use the MEP type of lighting. The difference between the two is architectural, it's just going to give us the actual lighting piece itself. In MEP, it gives us connections where we can run the actual electrical, lines towards. So there's differences between the two. This one, we're just going to use architectural. So let's open up that. We're going to use our internal lighting. And you see we have a whole array of different types of lights that we can use. We have tabletop lights. We've got some wall lights, floor lamps. So as you know, you can just click on these guys, take a look at them in preview and see what they would look like. As you notice, just clicking through some of these, that some of them are these weird shapes that look like this. It's basically more a representation of the light itself rather than giving you an actual light, much as, let's go to the table lamp again. This is going to give you something that looks like a lamp, and that lighting will actually work. And then these other ones are just going to give you a symbol for how that lighting is going to be represented in the space. So let's drop in a few of both. Pick which one I want to use. Try this one. Double click on that. It's going to give you an option to choose the size that you want and the wattage. Let's blow this thing up and use a 68 watt. And here, it's not letting me place this on anything. It's because I don't see the ceiling as well either. The elevation for this is elevation level 4 foot. So for some, it's not connecting on anything right now. So ways that we can correct that. I'm going to cancel that. Let's go to 3D. Let's hide one of these walls and let's find out what the elevation of that ceiling is. All right, zoom in. That's our ceiling right there, and our ceiling is set to 9 foot. Okay, so let's correct a few things. Let's go back to ceiling plan. Ceiling plan here is set to 9 foot, which is great. Let's go back to our components. My lighting is still available, and I'm going to change this to 9 foot. I don't know why the default was set to 4 foot, but okay. Go back to 3D and see what happened at that point. Okay, it looks like we have double ceilings here. That might be part of it. We have a ceiling set here at 9 foot. And then we also have a ceiling at 8 foot. So something to go back and revisit. If you have a question about that, whoever's project this is, please text me. And that might be why we're having issues with placing this. Let's go ahead and delete this one. And I'm going to go back to level 1. Components, float family. Try recess can light because I know that always works. There we go. So with our can lights, we can go ahead and just place these. And we want to keep those balanced so the light is distributed evenly. I'm not doing a great job here. You definitely want to keep those measurements the same. And in MEP class, we learned lighting calculations, so you know the correct amount of lights to put in the building in a room. Yeah, not measured out great. So if I was actually doing this for a client, I would go back and make sure that these measurements are spaced evenly. Let's go to 3D and take a look at what's going on now. And let's crank this up. So now we can see how we have our lights distributed, which looks much better. So let me put the walls back on and let's take a picture. I'm going to go to level 1. I go to level 1 interiors because I know you got something in there. And let's go back to view tab, the camera tool, and we'll take a picture from this spot. There's that light. I was wondering where that went. Okay, so that's going to look weird, but we can delete that. This is also part of the reason that it's nice to do these walkthroughs and interior pictures, because sometimes something will disappear, and you'll find it like this. So we'll go back and fix that after we render it. Let's render it and see what happens. And let's do this with interior artificial only and see how it works. Okay, so we've got something that looks like this. We don't have that black room that we had before, but you can see from here, even with that placement of that wrong placement of that other light, we definitely need more light in here for evenings as opposed to the few can lights that we put in here now. It also has to do with the wattage, and there's different ways that we can adjust that in MEP. But yeah, you can definitely see the difference that the lighting makes, especially when you're looking at interior artificial light only. Let's see what it looks like with sun and artificial. And let's render that. And we see something that's coming out much nicer here. What's interesting about this view when it's rendered is take a look at the reflection from the ceiling and the walls and everything. Obviously, there was a very high gloss finish used on all of these wall paint, these wall materials, and the floor. So you get a lot of reflection off of it, which is really interesting when you want that and you want to see how that comes through. Yeah, I like the way this view looks over here because we have that reflection on the other side of the wall and things. So you can see the more you start refining your lighting and the more we are able to adjust these images, the more realistic they start to look, especially if you take these images and you import them into Photoshop and work on them from there. So what I would do for this, I would go back and I would adjust some more lighting. I would add some more lighting in here, not just limited to these cans, but you can see as we start adding this lighting, it really kind of lights up a room, literally, and it makes a difference. Let's do one more room. Let me go ahead and save this to the project. Well, no, I'm not going to keep saving, so, but I could save it. Let's jump back to ceiling plan. And this room over here had a lot of stuff going on in it. So let's take a look at that. Let me go back to architecture tab, component tool, and load family. Let's throw in a bunch more stuff this time and see what it looks like. I have this art glass thing here. What's that? Let's see. And place on a vertical face. So it wants to be vertical here. Once again, set to 4 foot. Very strange. Oh, I see. It's that's a pendant lamp. Let's try 9 foot. That would not look right. All right, scratch that. All right, so this is a wall lamp. Let's throw in a couple here. These actually do have their electrical connections on, so that's nice. And I am just kind of randomly placing these. You will want to make sure that they're spaced correctly. Let's go back to modify tab, to components, and load family again. Let's load something different. This flat round. And as you're working on your design, it's always good to practice with these outside in a separate model before you decide which ones you want to bring into your actual model. That way you know what they look like, and it'll be less reworking in your actual model. And let's throw in one other type of light. What am I going to use this time? I thought there was a floor lamp. Ah, floor lamp stand up. Okay, so the difference between that is I need to import that into it on another level. So let's cancel that. If it's a floor lamp, obviously I have to be in level 1. Level 1 interiors. So components, load family. Let me find that floor lamp again. And let's drop in a couple of floor lamps. And I'll just put one here. Not a great space for it because it's right in the middle of your traffic flow, but I just want to see how it lights up the room. All right, so we've got that room nicely, lots of nice lighting options. And let's go back to view tab. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Level 1 interiors, camera tool, and let's take a picture from the doorway again, like if you're standing just outside of it, and bring that all the way through. There's a bunch of rando lights in here. Not a great design, but it should look interesting when we render it. Let's pull that out a little bit more. And these are a little high. We probably want to change the height adjustment on these. I can notice that's from this angle because you can see it goes up and then it kind of disappears into the ceiling and then it comes back down. So this one we probably would want to adjust that height elevation on it. Let's click on that now and see. Let's change it to 6 feet and see what happens. Okay, so it may just be the angle of it. Let's leave it like that and see what happens when we render. All right, we'll go back to render. Oh, I left it on exterior sun only, so not a great example right now. Let's just see what that finishes out like. Okay, that was really helpful. It's still interesting just to see the sun outside. Let's change it to the proper lighting scheme. Sun and artificial. And actually, let's just use artificial interior and see how that lights up. Okay. There, we can see the arches and these wall hangings a little bit better now. And it's definitely brighter than the other one we took a look at because we have a lot of lights in here. Yeah, there's that arch there. It's just the angle. So we could move that one back. But you can definitely see the difference between the two renderings. Obviously, the more lights that we put in here, the brighter it gets. And it's just a matter of using the correct number of lights. This one's taking forever. Okay. Actually, that doesn't look too bad. So anyway, so that's pretty much, you want to add the lights in and then you want to go back and re-render it. And you can definitely see the difference between the two. And I would definitely give you options between rendering with just artificial light or artificial and exterior light. And you just need to put the lighting in on the first floor. So any questions about lights before we move on?
Quick comment, Michelle.
Yeah.
I just noticed that we can actually do the lighting straight from the ceiling plan also. Like I have a 2x4 acoustical ceiling. So I wanted to make sure that my can lights were right in the center of the, 2x4.
Yes, yes.
So just
Yeah.
wanted to add that comment.
Oh, no, that was a great comment. I appreciate it. And that is actually something good to draw people's attention. In this particular one that this person's working on here, let's go to the ceiling plan level 1. She didn't use the acoustical ceiling tiles, but to change that, and that's why it's a really highly reflective surface. But that's a really good point, especially if you're using acoustical ceiling tiles on that. I'll bring that up in an example. We do, because I'm going to start another example for standing seam metal roofs, but that's a really good point. Thank you. Any other questions, y'all? All right, so just to, I'm just going to work in a separate model, a new model. I'm not going to incorporate the standing seam metal roof into this building. And then it's up to you if you want to incorporate it into your building or not. So let's go ahead and start playing with that. So let me throw something up really quick. Oops. Oh, I'll just put a ceiling in there because that would be a good example for that lighting idea. And then roof. Yes, I want that on level 2. All right, so we've got something simple that looks like this. Let's go ahead and figure out what standing seam metal roof is if you're not familiar. So we're basically going to be creating a metal roof on these buildings. You see these a lot in commercial buildings. This is pretty much the roofing style that they have on Delgado's main campus. You've seen this a lot. So it's basically the metal roofing with these standing seams to connect the panels, the metal panels. So it does add a different architectural element on here, and it's a multi-step process to create these. So let's go ahead and learn how to do that. So we're basically just going to start with the regular roof, which is the nice part. You're just going to create the regular roof that you have. And we're actually going to work off of this roof to create the other roof. So I always go from a side view. You can use a side elevation, you can use a 3D side elevation, but you always want to make sure that you're straight on with this elevation. Click that center panel, make sure it's left, zoom in. Don't ever try and go for an angle like that. Even if it's off that little bit angle, that's going to throw off any type of editing that you do, which may be why that other flooring was off just a little bit, is what it seemed like. All right, so once again, let's go to a straight on left view. And the first thing we're going to do is just copy this roof. So we'll go to modify CADD. We'll go to our copy tool. We'll select the roof, right click, we'll finish our selection. We only want that. Then we're going to go right from that peak, click, and we're just going to drag it straight up. So we've just copied that same roof. And it's nice just to keep that same plane. Don't try and bring it off to the side or anything. And that's part of the reason it has to be a straight on view. You want to just copy that straight up and just drag that up. It doesn't matter the height at this time. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to highlight the roof, make it active. We're going to come back over to properties. We're going to do our drop down here, and we're going to drop down and we're going to change this from a generic 12-inch or whatever roof you have now to sloped glazing. So what does that mean? Basically, we just put a glass roof on our house. Doesn't make a lot of sense yet. So, but it would actually start off as a sloped glazing roof, but with most of our materials, we can go into edit. We can duplicate and rename this. So I'm going to name this just call it seam roof for now. And then it's set to curtain panel. And I actually want to make this solid. So let's just do that. And let me change the color of this too. Let me set this to consistent color first for y'all. Okay, so this is what it looks like when you bring it in, when you change it to slope glazing. Now I'll click on it, make it active. Edit type, I got to duplicate it again. And then there. So solid. That's okay. All right. So now we have created another solid roof. And the reason we do that is we just want this thin component to resemble the metal on the roof. And we're just going to lower this later, but we want to make it actually look like it has standing seams now. So I can do this from an angle, and I'll go ahead and I'll click on that roof, make it active again. Actually, I don't like it at an angle. I'm going to do it from straight on. Let's go into edit type. And we're actually going to add a grid to it. Similar to how we added a grid to curtain walls. So we're going to add grid 1. And we'll do a fixed number. And this is set to 5. And then if I did grid 2, it would run grid the other way. Let me just do grid 1 and mullions 1. And here I can pick the type of mullion that I want. So let me do this big one right here. And you can see how it's going to add those seams, how that starts adding them, and it starts to look like that metal roof. So let me click on the roof again, make it active. I come back over here to my properties. I'm going to scroll down. I want to get these mullions lined up correctly. So I want to actually have the center justification. The change wasn't that dramatic because we only have a few of them on there. Let's go ahead and click this again, make it active, go back into edit type. And I'm going to change this to fixed distance because I want to have more on here. And let's see, I make this 3 foot apart. Now we're looking a lot better. So that's starting to resemble a roof. Now, just so you know what goes on, if you continue editing this, let's click on the roof, make it active again, go back to edit type. Remember, we just did grid 1 and mullions 1. If we add grid 2 on here, it's just going to make it look like boxes, and that's obviously not a standing seam metal roof. But I'll just add it so you can see what it looks like. So yeah, you can see how it's another design option. If you do want to do that, it's not necessarily a standing seam metal roof because this would impede the water runoff. But if you want to play with it and kind of figure out a design element to it, it's another option. But let's go ahead and undo that. Let's go ahead and go back to our front view. And this is where we're just going to highlight the roof, make it active again. And we're just lower it back onto the top of this roof. I don't like to drag stuff, so let's just see if we can place this as a 1 foot offset. Let's see where that brings us. Actually, not bad. Not bad at all, even at just 1 foot. And the reason I picked 1 foot is because this original roof is 12 inches, and that worked out pretty well. Sometimes you may have to adjust it a couple of inches, 1 foot, 2 inches and things like that. There's no hard and fast rule with that, but that's pretty much how you create a standing seam metal roof. You can incorporate it into your current design element. You don't have to. Remember, if you're not incorporating these into your current design model, you will have to supply a separate model so I can see that you know how to do it. So this one can incorporate the dormers and the standing seam metal roof at the same time. Any questions about how to create the standing seam metal roof? It's actually pretty easy, and it's just a matter of just making sure you get the steps right. But it is kind of fun, and it does add definitely a distinct design element to it. Let's go back to ceiling plan level 1 and see what Luis was talking about. So when we're creating our ceiling plan, and if you use acoustical ceiling tile, it is important to make sure that you present your lighting in the correct manner. So let's do a couple of these. You want to make sure that they're inside these panels, these acoustical ceiling panels, because remember, these are the metal rods that keep metal mullions that keep up the ceiling. So you want to make sure that that's balanced out and that they're in here in this section. What does that look like? Architecture tab, components tool, load family. Let's pick. Let's try this. Yeah. So you can see if I place this right here, that's totally going to be intersecting that metal grid. It's not going to work in that section. But if I place it over here, the connections are going to go through the acoustical ceiling tile. And they'll hang from these spots right here. There's also larger, think about it when you go to any kind of place that has acoustical ceiling tiles, your doctor's office or something, you'll notice that the panels always are filled with that light space. Or if they have a vent from your air conditioning unit or anything like that, they're set there as well. So you always want to make sure that it's within this acoustical ceiling tile. Let's do a couple more. Components tool, load family. If I have any, it's the same one. I don't know if that's going to work or not. Let's pick, let's do something big. All right, and let's go to 3D and see what that looks like. Let's hide the roof. This is what I want. Sometimes selecting exactly what you want is always the hardest part, as y'all have learned. There we go, much better. All right. So here we have our one that we selected here. This one didn't come out very well, so that one would have to be redone. Delete that, that looks weird. But here you can see that where this light is hanging from is definitely within these acoustical ceiling tiles. We didn't have that much to worry about in the other model that we looked at, just because we didn't have acoustical ceiling tile in that space, so it gives you a little bit more flexibility. So if you are using acoustical ceiling tile, make sure that you have that spaced evenly and distributed evenly, but within your acoustical ceiling tile itself. Any questions about anything we went over today, y'all? Okay, if there's no questions, we'll go ahead and end class. Please go ahead and make sure that you submit your work by Saturday, just so I can check your progress on that. I think this is a really good time to turn in your work for a progress check, just so I can catch little things like we did in the model we reviewed earlier today, because after this, we will be moving into construction documents. You can still continue editing, but it is a good time to get the model checked if you're interested, and I'll have a chance to take a look at that this weekend. So any other questions? Are we all good? All right, if that's it, we'll go ahead and drop. Have a fantastic Easter, and I'll see you on Monday.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye, y'all. Take care.